Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is still doing well, and welcome to today's bonus upload. Before we jump into it, a couple quick links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman, Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support this channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost a cent. Click that like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads I put out daily, click the bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment and share the video. Why? Well, because all of these things, they really do help the channel to continue to grow and go. They definitely do matter, and they are appreciated. And with that, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump in to today's bonus, shall we? Okay, guys, about a week ago, I talked about a video clip, or I shared a video clip, excuse me, and I talked about the lady who had shared it with me. And she is actually a researcher as well. She had caught that video with her grandchild, and I've got an interview with her that I'm going to share right now. I'll share the video clip to start the video off with, that way you can be familiar with it, but she's going to share another kind of slew of other experiences that she has experienced herself, and some that she has heard from friends and family and such. So let's get into it.
What is it? What'd you see?
What the frick is that?
What? It's behind that tree right there.
Niana, what is that?
What is it? What'd you see?
What the frick is that?
What? It's behind that tree right there.
Niana, what is that?
What is it? What'd you see?
What the frick is that?
What? It's behind that tree right there.
Niana, what is that?
What is it? What'd you
What the
see?
frick is that?
What? It's behind that tree right there.
Niana, what is that?
What is it? What'd you
What the
see?
frick is that?
What? It's behind that tree right there.
Niana, what is that?
What is it? What'd you
What the
see?
frick is that?
What? It's behind that tree right there.
Niana, what is that?
All right, everybody. Today I have a very special guest. I've been talking with her for about an hour now, and we have had a great conversation so far. We came up with a couple of interesting ideas, but we're going to talk to Christine Ann, and she's going to share some of her encounters with us. She also has a few books out that she's written, but at the end of this, her and I came up with an idea and to help people. So how are you today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing great, and it's been a blast talking with you prior to the interview. I just want to let you know that I've had fun. So thank you.
I appreciate it too, because you were very informative and letting me know that other people have had similar experiences that don't make it seem so weird now.
Exactly. Now, like I said in the beginning, you have had a couple of encounters and you've written some books. I don't know where you want to start. Would you like to kind of start with your encounters?
I want to start with the encounters. When talking about the books, those books aren't just my encounters, they are other people's as well.
Okay.
I want to focus on the Mogollon Rim area for a little bit because it led me to my first investigation, which led to me discovering a completely different Dogman species I had never seen before.
The floor is yours, so you can talk about whatever you want.
Okay, so I want to start with the first experience I had here in Raleigh County, West Virginia. Like I said, it was in 1981 or 82, so I was 13 or 14 years old. I was just being me. I was out there in the woods vine swinging. Vine swinging is a popular thing among young people here. It kills the time. Generally speaking, back then there wasn't a lot to do in the neighborhood. They hadn't put the school in yet. So we would go out and we'd knock off a branch and have a good time. And we were having a good time till a stupid tree broke. Tree went one way, me and the branch went the other way. I tumbled down the hill and tumbled. And finally I came to a startling stop. I was dazed by it, a little confused about how everything had happened. And when I looked up, there was this hyena-like dog sitting down on its crotch. That's not the right word. It's hunch, isn't it? And it took my breath away. She looked just like a hyena. Golden brown fur, and her eyes were hard to see whether or not they were blue or yellowish, but she stood out because even on her hunch, she was bigger than I was, but not by much. And she seemed to be moving for me. She was emitting this thing of, I want to help you, not I want to kill you. That was the feeling I was getting from her. But then the two dogs came down, and that quickly turned to her turning defensive and aggressive. And then I heard rescue workers coming, and that was the last I seen of her. She disappeared into the woods. Now, as I was getting ready to go back up, one of the rescue workers mentioned they thought they saw a den of some sort, and that there was some bones of animals and stuff like that in there. No human remains, mind you, just bones. Though we'll never know for sure, because I told you when they went back to explore more, the complete den area had been destroyed, and it was mentioned that not long after the missing animals stopped going missing in the neighborhood, there were no more missing pets. So that was the good outcome of that experience. It was probably a fairly decent experience, whereas my second one was not. It left me with a tremendous amount of fear because something or someone did try to break in at one point, and the back door. We never saw what it was, though, because neither one of us was stupid enough to go look out the back window. So we never know. But they had the dogs on edge. I mean, barking, carrying on, stuff like that. Can't remember if I told you about that, because I actually mentioned that it's happening at the other lady's house, but that's not. It was at my brother's house. Okay. There. And it was terrifying too. We got so scared. Me and his wife, we called him at work. Please come get us. We don't want to stay here. And we ended up spending the night in a hotel, and I just couldn't deal anymore. I went down to Grandma's house, started feeling better, being out and about, and I've always been an outdoors person, so the idea of staying inside on such a beautiful day would have sucked anyways. So she asked me to take some dinner up to the lady up the road because she just lost two of her family members. She didn't say how, but I saw a yellow ribbon on the door when I got there, so I assume it has something to do with military service. And I went in, got in and chatted with her for a while, because she was alive during the Roaring 20s. She was telling beautiful stories. Her house was studying Queen Anne stuff and flowers. But they weren't any flowers. They were my favorite. There were roses everywhere. Rose plates, even the teacups that she served us on were roses. And in fact, I have that now. I have the set now. And she left it to me. And cucumber sandwiches, because despite my fear, I still would go up after that experience, just not after that summer because I got sent home. But on the way back, I got this creepy feeling something was following me in the woods. And I mean, it was really super creepy from the point of view of a child. And I got to about the post office, and this big tom cricket went over the top of my head. And I dropped to the road, and it flew over, and it was like a 747, man. I mean, it really sounded loud. I had no idea they could even fly at this point in my life. When I started to get back up is when I saw it poking out from behind the tree. One look at it was all it took, and I didn't even look back. I just took off down the road, around Aunt Brenda's, through the yard, and into the house. Just like that. I said, I can't take being here anymore. I want to go home to Arizona, point blank. And so they sent me home, and I was okay. It was maybe a year or two, and I just buried all the emotions, all the feelings, but more importantly, somehow I managed to suppress how traumatic that actually was. I mean, here's this unknown species that's at least 6 feet tall, if not bigger. And I felt that that particular one was a major threat to me.
Right.
And so I was terrified. But my memories were jarred free in 2013. I was recertifying for EMS. And I was on my way home later than usual because I stayed to help a fellow student who didn't think he was going to pass his physical part of his exam, the skills testing. And I was a little bit worried about whether or not I was going to pass the written part because I blew through the course, just like I would do many things. And I found it, okay, I'm not going to lie, I didn't find it challenging at all. It's just whether or not I would remember the information come time for a test because I get test anxiety really, really bad. And a lot of times what makes a difference between passing and failing is going to be the balance between the two grades, which is the case here. And so I was nervous, but not so nervous I didn't notice that a bunch of deer were running across the road. So I stopped my truck, and I was watching them run. Next thing I know, there's a buck with his head turned around and hit my truck. And then long, hairy arm reached out with these claws like a raccoon or koala bear would have, reached out, took it, bit into it, and it rolled its red eye back at me, and my blood turned cold. I mean, it was like it was saying, okay, I'm going this way, you go that way, but this is mine. Leave it alone. It was like, no problem, dude. So I put my truck in reverse on a blind curve. I went back up the hill. Drove around for a while to the gas station, smoked a few cigarettes, came back down. After calling my husband, I asked him, can I please stay with you tonight? And he said, yeah, sure. He was actually kind of thrilled. I don't think he expected to find me in the state I was in. I asked him to be waiting there with the door open. Not open, but at least unlocked. Pulled up as close to that door as I could, jumped out of my truck as fast as I could, ran through the door, slammed it shut, locked it, proceeded to go through the house, locking windows and whatnot, and bed it down in between my children so I could protect them if need be with my hunting rifle. He woke me up about 4:30, demanding to know what I hit with my truck because I had black hair on my truck. I had a huge dent on my truck with lots of blood. So it's obvious that something had happened. Though if I had to explain it to an insurance company, I would have been embarrassed. So I'm glad that my son was doing auto shop back then. And
now I don't mean to cut you off, but the third encounter that you had was a different Dogman. It looked different than the first two because the first two were more hyena-like, right? Yeah,
this dude was kind of buff, very shaggy in hair, which I've not seen since. And he just had this air about him of don't mess with me. You won't like the consequences. you know. I haven't seen him since, and it was definitely a he, but that was just the air I got from him.
Okay.
But as I told you, it was too dark really to see much more than a silhouette. And to me, it looked like the deer was still struggling. But I guess if he was walking, especially with those legs kind of set back like actual dogs, then it would make sense that he was actually drawing it and he was moving. And he appeared to be quite big, but I was too stunned to think in terms of size. And I don't know how people could tell unless they know the area really, really well. My fourth encounter is what shook my memories free, and it left me terrified. But in between those, I started having visions of werewolves. I was afraid of vampires because of all the vampire movies we used to watch as children. Now suddenly I'm afraid of werewolves. What the hell? Oops, sorry.
That's all right.
I was like, oh no, it's just. But sometimes I go out on the porch and I could hear something in the bush. I could feel like things are watching me. So I'm in bed one night, and we had an elderly woman living with me and Rebecca. Me and Janice, Grandma, named Rebecca, and she woke us up screaming one night, and she insisted I called police. Rather than deal with her attitude, I went ahead and called them, thinking that she really did see a person, nothing else. But she politely informs them when she comes out in just her briefs that it was a werewolf. And I was like, okay, she's having a moment. I was afraid of werewolves suddenly, but for her to say she saw one, I don't know. There was a part of me that didn't want to believe that what she was saying was true.
Right.
I don't know if it was subconscious or literal or if it was just out there, But it just wasn't agreeing with me. It was terrifying me. But then when my fourth encounter happened, there was just no doubt that these things exist. They're very real, and I had no explanation for them. Me and Grandma Jan stayed up real late. It's a special day for her. She went to watch Josh Brolin movies. And we stayed up till about 1 o'clock in the morning and went to have a smoke before I went to bed. I stepped out onto my balcony, lit up. The minute I lit up, something came up my tree. I don't know if it's the front yard tree or the one beside my house, beside the loft itself, but it was up there so fast that I barely had time to go back inside. I didn't have time to ditch the cigarettes, which is a good thing. It would have caught something on fire. Flipped the lock, put the cigarette out, and then I heard it for the first time. It's like, what is that? That was not a mountain lion. That was not a bobcat. It's not a bear. It sounded like a dog, a pretty large dog at that. And I was terrified. It's like it's a full moon out there. It's a werewolf. She wasn't lying. There's a werewolf around here. But I didn't want to get off the bed to go confirm it. But eventually, I had to know. It was making a mess on my loft porch. So I get up, and I really wish I hadn't. But I opened it up, the curtain, and there it was. It stared right back at me, put its hand up flat against the glass, and I self-consciously put mine up as more of a sign of peace. I don't want any trouble. I started to hear the porch break, and I immediately pointed towards an escape route for it, and it took it, which was a gate that we used to do maintenance on the swamp coolers. I went out, jumped down, because it's a little further down than the actual porch was, and it disappeared over towards the creek. I was left shaken, scared, but it was nothing compared to the next morning when I found a mountain lion ripped apart. And suddenly I just didn't know how to make sense of the whole thing. But I did not say anything about it to anyone because I was self-conscious. I thought about it until 2018 or 19 when I started doing pen paling again, I contacted my friend in the UK. Did you remember those stories you used to hear about the graveyard dogmen?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Okay. I wish I had the paperwork here, but she sent it back to me. I was like, "Yep, that's the one." Okay. And she goes, "Does something happen?" And I told her what happened. She goes, "You need to contact this person or at least go on his website." So I did. I went on his website. I checked out all the stories. Found one that's exactly like mine. Totally different consequences, though. So, I mean, this one was terrorizing, and whereas mine was being overly protective, I just didn't look at the time as he was being protective. And you could clearly see it was a male with that moonlight shining on its private areas so nicely. Yeah, that blew my mind. And he was buff man too, but his head didn't quite match the rest of them. But, it didn't occur to me at the time that maybe he just hadn't grown into his ears yet. And people always say, "Well, what does his legs look like?" I've never actually seen his legs, so I don't know. But I can tell you what his eyes look like, what his claws look like, and he doesn't have as much hair on his face, chest, or the front of his hands, but he does have pads on his hands to help him move when he's on all fours. And so he was. And he looked a lot like the first one, the one on the left. I'm pretty sure it's on the left and not the right. And I was like, I didn't imagine it. I've never been so thankful for the World Wide Web in my entire life. So I contacted him, told him my story. It came out about the same time my first book did, Nightmare in the Woods, which is still the bestseller of my books. All my books are only available on Amazon. Just all of you out there, please hear this. I do not endorse The Return of the Dogman. I know it's still available, but I don't endorse it. It's the absolute worst copy I've ever read of any book. Just saying. There are two better options that you have out there.
Which I'll put the links to Christina Ann books in the description below for you guys to check out as well.
I appreciate that. So I did Nightmare in the Woods first to just try to get in perspective and get over the fear part of it. Because I was so scared I didn't even want to go in a hot tub.
Right.
Not if it was dark. But you don't want to be going in a hot tub during the day either. So, I don't know. It was really hard to deal with for a while. But the book was well received, and I got more stories. Most of them took place along the Mogollon Rim. A friend related their story. My son, when his parents were still alive, him and his dad saw something really bizarre one night. They said a man, not a werewolf, but a man, was running beside their truck down by Munns Park, Arizona, 2 a.m. to 3 a.m. Kept up with it, and then just suddenly changed into a wolf. I was like, what? Never heard of that. I thought, that's interesting. I'll put it in there and see if anyone responds to it. Well, now I have the answer. You've seen it, so, or at least you know someone. And it doesn't seem so out there now.
Right.
Well, like I said, I got lots of reports along the Mogollon Rim, so I decided to go up and check it. And we were staying up at a particular lodge. It gained my interest. I had no idea how isolated it was. To give you an idea, we needed to go in town for some supplies because I have a rare disease known as gastroparesis. Gastro meaning stomach, paresis meaning paralysis, and the SIS at the end of any medical suffix means inflammation. And so I can't eat like a normal person does. Right now I'm living on protein shakes. I may 19th, I will undergo my first surgery to put a stimulator in. And if it goes well, I will get the permanent one set in on the 25th. So I'm hoping, because I like to have some actual food, and more to the point, I want a taco. So enough about that. I know the dreams of people, right? The goals.
I was diagnosed with a rare disorder. It's a terminal illness, but it's manageable on medicine. And I went from 165 pounds to 113. And I lived on protein shakes for a year. So I know what you're going through. So,
for me, the hardest part so far is knowing it can be terminal.
Yep.
I mean, I could have a heart attack at any moment, stroke out. The medication can make me sick, cause complications. And to be told over and over again, this medication is not available for people with your condition because it's safe for people who have cancer and AIDS. But, they need it more than you do. Yeah. Who decides these things?
Yeah.
But enough about that. You don't even want to get me started, because that's a good way to put me in a bad temperament. So I did want to know more, and I had gone up there to meet with someone at the lodge. Before we had a chance to get a meet, I took my binoculars out, and I had heard that you could see a lot of elk up there. I've been out there sitting for about an hour. Nothing. So I went in, and the lady says, will you take these down to the horses? And there are a bunch of apples and stuff cut up for the horses. Well, I get near the corral, and these horses that had previously been extremely friendly were freaking out. It freaked me out, so I just took all that fruit and threw it into the woods. I ran for it. I figured something would eat it. Not logical. Went back, got my bigger binoculars, my camera, was scanning the forest, didn't see anything at first, kept hearing this particular sound though. Finally I look over, and I got excited because I saw it from the feet up first. From the feet up, it looked like a Sasquatch, but when I got to that pointy ears and the snout, it was like, just another Dogman. I mean, you should have heard my disappointment. I was ready to see the Mogollon Rim monster,
Yeah.
But no, it was a Dogman. And then I just was like, okay. So I tried to get a picture, but he disappeared into the forest before then. But not before he held up the apple. He held up one of those little apples. Like, thank you. Whatever. Hope it worked for him.
Yeah.
Can't see it be enough. And then, because I went to the University of Kentucky for my initial, I guess you saw analysis. I came up here where I am now to my mom and dad's, which is Raleigh County. And this was just last year in May. And the first thing I saw was the Bigfoot track. And I had no doubt. And I took my son's size 16 and put it right next to that track. I mean, literally right next to it. I had pictures until my computer broke. And it dwarfed it. So I followed it up. And there were only the two prints. One right there, and then the second one as it headed off into the woods that I could find. Doesn't mean there weren't any there. It just means that I didn't see any others. But it was raining really hard at the time, so I couldn't cast the one I did find. And you could tell it was a Sasquatch. It had the toes, individual toes, like it was barefoot, but it also had that wide bottom that you see and no arch. So it definitely wasn't human. And it wasn't a bear, because even a bear, if it's scooting the other paw underneath it, it leaves a ridge. You could tell these things. So it's definitely a Sasquatch, but I've never heard of any Sasquatch. Then my parents were telling a story one night about some death-defying scream they heard off the side of the mountain on the other side of the creek. And there is a creek that runs right through their property and my brother's properties. And I didn't think anything of it. And I was feeling good one day. I mean, I was feeling really good. I did something kind of mean and spiteful when owner of a restaurant asked me to leave. I paid the bill. I left a very generous tip for the waitress, smiled pretty, and walked out head held high. It actually made me feel good. That, I still could do little things.
Right.
So I just said, I was going to go for a walk. I was on that feel-good high. I know I'm sooner busted past the gate on my brother's, because I always go that way, through our parents' yard to my brother's gate, because it's easier to get across the soggy grass. And I know soon I got past the gate and started walking, and then something started growling at me. I was almost to the second one, when all of a sudden a boulder came out of nowhere, hitting something down from the mountainside. And I think I told you this. No wind blowing, but the leaves alongside me were moving that try it again. The leaves alongside me, parallel, were moving, but there was no wind.
Yeah.
That creeped me out. And I mean, the feeling was creepy in and of itself, because it was more than just being watched. It was, I'm going to kill you type feeling.
Mm.
You're prey. And it was terrifying. And all of a sudden, this boulder comes down. I thought it was history. But it hit this thing instead of me. And I saw it just long enough to know and recognize it as a very specific type of dogman. They're usually known as the beast of the land between the lakes, dogman. And these ones are just stone-cold killers. I've never known any of them to be nice. And so I just went back home and left a little offering for the Bigfoot, because I saw it about 10 feet tall. And then a smaller one popped up next to me, a little over 5 feet, I'd say about 5'3" to 5'5". I told you it's just a little bit bigger than I am at 5'1". We're going to preserve my dignity with that. And I headed into the house, and I told my brother, we are not letting the kids anywhere near the forest. I mean, they're not going near the woods. It's enough, a border, boundaries. And he told them, if she tells you not to do this, then you don't do it. There's a reason why he invited me to go fishing. He doesn't know how. He knows nothing about the outdoors. Whereas I spent almost my entire life in the woods. I'm not the type of person who wants to hide inside the house. I want to experience nature. Just, not the things that kill me. And then on my mom's birthday on June 5th, we all went out to dinner. And if it was a restaurant, they knew I'd be able to eat something. And when we came back, it was just me and Mom outside. Mom went in to go to the bathroom. And I heard 2 warnings, once from the crow, once from the woodpecker, and knocked 3 times. Could have been other things. Yeah. They both mimic birds. But I didn't see Nori or Kamal approach me. I don't remember it. But having a dogman talk to is the freakiest experience on the planet. Because they wanted to make sure that that I knew that I was in danger from this cryptid. Mm. This one in particular, because it was since my Native American magic and my magic from my Romanian heritage, which, quite honestly, I suspected might actually be gypsy. The nomadic types. Yep. The only reason I suspect this is we can only trace it back so far to the Romanian-Tasmanian border. And if you look at that in the time period, it just leaves you wondering. Plus, they were very nomadic people. I mean, we had trouble finding any records of them. But it is a Slavic last name. And they just wanted to make sure I knew that. and that they'd be keeping an eye out, especially since there were little ones there. But still, they asked to make sure in the future their mother respects their area. Apparently, she had wandered into it recently. I don't think I told you that earlier, but she did. Her and I believe the other one's husband had wandered up that way. They had just gotten lost, though. But so
Now,
I kind of weighed heavily on my mind.
I didn't tell you this, but I have a sub, and his name is Zach, and he was down in Alabama, and he actually had a Dogman, actually a werewolf, one without a tail, warn him verbally that he was there to protect him, and two dog men actually attacked Zach like 2 or 3 days later, and I guess he had never seen the one that had talked to him after that. But yeah, it was pretty intense. But when you said they were warning you from a different cryptid, can you explain what they kind of said, like what kind of cryptid or what they were referring to?
She was very specific. It wanted more power, more magic, more territory.
Okay.
I don't know what. But usually, we do, and if they want some more, it's never a good thing.
No, definitely
it's
not.
always a bad thing. Right now, what I'm seeing is a bunch of dogmen want more territory. I've claimed the territory, and it has me worried. It has me really worried because they're about to up.
Yeah. Now, you had mentioned something to me because you reached out to me because I had been talking about the Virginia stuff, about, like you said, Tazewell, Buchanan, Mercer in West Virginia, Pocahontas in West Virginia, and
I was curious to hear about the Chenam County ones, because we were in there recently.
Yeah.
And I thought it was still a little willy from them wanting to spend the night in the land between the lakes. My husband does not believe me about Dogman, but he believes in UFOs. Go figure. And I didn't either until I saw it, so I can't really talk. But I don't know how to explain it. There was just this atmosphere in that area that just left me terrified.
Right.
It was very ominous, very frightening. It's extremely dense forest.
Yeah, it is.
It probably has a lot of cave systems.
I don't know if you heard me say that, but the other day, yesterday, a lady was talking about her sons, how they went and they discovered the thing. They discovered the shoes, and she said, well, the news guy said, will you let your kids out in the woods again? And she said, yes, chances are it's not going to happen a second time. I did some research. Yeah, I did some research, and this was the second time.
It happened in 2016.
Yeah. But you had made a comment about the bodies in Virginia being left out to find, which kind of made me think a little bit on that whole subject. And it was a pretty good theory, and it makes a lot of sense.
It's not necessarily a theory, as I've seen it with cases of Bigfoot before bodies just start disappearing. They'll let you know they're there, and they want you out by leaving bodies in not so discreet places, torn apart. Have you ever heard of Fort Chapman?
Yeah, up in Alaska.
Right exactly. The Bigfoot there, the hairy man, was leaving bodies in the waterway. Finally, what had happened? Everybody left.
Yep.
There haven't been any more bodies, but there have been a few disappearances here and there. For the most part, though, they're not as confrontational. They don't have a huge populace coming in like they did before. But that's what that is. That's territory. And that's how they'll mark their territory. Never to be seen from them again. You don't get the message one way, they'll get it home another.
Right.
So pay attention now while you still can. Stay out of their territory. But first, you got to find out the most important thing. Where is that territory exactly? Well, apparently down that 460 corridor in general. We border it with both Mercer and Buchanan. I don't think we deal with Tazewell, but don't quote me on it. Pocahontas does. All this is important because in between there is a nice mountain range. Now, back in the late 70s, early 80s, they blew a hole in those two mountains that used to be there. Well, they're still there, but it's putting in Big Walker Mountain Tunnel and New River Tunnel. And beforehand, you used to have to go over one, down through the valley, and then over the other one into Mercer County. But that valley is still in between there, still very accessible, and there's a whole lot of cave systems through there. As you point out and reminded me, one of the things that made their job a little bit easier was the cave system was already there. They found them in spades when they were blasting holes through there. And they've had some minor problems, but it's not like they've had workers going to disappear and stuff like that. I did get a report once on I-77, I believe it was. It was in Virginia, a little further down in Tazewell County, though. I don't think it's Tazewell because it was just a little north of Bristol. But the gentleman was loading up a deer in the back of the truck. That was his job. And something grabbed it, pulled it off, and he said he could literally feel it lifting it up off the truck. And when he turned, he saw a big dog reaching into his truck to get it out. So I imagine that part of what they like around there is all that roadkill to get in there for people accidentally hitting things. Because I swear we have some of the stupidest deer in America.
Yeah. That's funny that you said that because DJ, the guy who we were talking about, the when he took those pictures, and you noticed the claw marks as well. But that was the first thing he said was, yeah, roadkill. He said roadkill because you've got water, you've got roadkill, you've got everything you need right there in that area for them to thrive.
It's just like here, plenty of roadkill, waterway. People throw things down the creek even. There's plenty of things for them to eat. But of course, I also was first to ask. Now, you mentioned that they like to talk by mouth. The first time I talked to them, they didn't use their mouths. They used pictures.
Okay.
They used script. Because they didn't know how I would react, since it was a new experience. When I talked to Thomas, and since he didn't have a name, it complicated things. I had to give him a name. Because he told me that he was getting tired of me not calling him. I was kept going, oh, it's you. What the hell reaction did he think I was going to have to put his head through my window? He scared the hell out of me. But he just wanted to know for sure it was me. That's especially funny. After a cat just hit my window.
Right.
It was meant to be an offering, but I didn't understand. So I asked him, I said, why won't you leave me alone? So he points to his foot and two toes in particular. It's like there's no way he could be a little dog with strange little hands. But his hands look more like a koala bear's than a raccoon's. Then he looked more shepherd than wolf then. And he said that that's who he was and that he didn't have a mama. He doesn't know his people. I'm the closest thing he has, and I always provide him with food. Now that he's older, he can hunt for himself, obviously. He's actually pretty good at it. And when he first started doing it and realized I was back at the house, he would leave me a deer leg. It's like, yeah, I'll pass, thanks. Now, if you pick a different part of the deer, we could talk.
Yeah, some
I meant
flanks
it
or
as
something.
a joke. It was stupid because I meant it as a joke, but he took me literally. He left me the innards. So it's like, I can actually work with this.
Is he the one that tried to feed you a cat?
Yes. First the cat, when he realized I was losing weight, and then I realized how much weight I lost, and it was a mouse.
Wow.
I was like, seriously, I gave you a pumpkin, you give me a mouse? Where's the justice in this? We're going to have a serious talk about the differences between what humans eat and what dogs eat.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that's not how it's supposed to work. We don't eat cat. They're our pets.
Yep.
We certainly don't eat mice. But he can smell that I'm sick. And it bothers him.
Right.
Because to him it'd be like losing a family member. Because I am his only family.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, really quick, we're coming up on time, because I only got about an hour of record time right now. I kind of want to get the names of your books, but I want to talk about something that you and I talked about first before we talk about that. So, myself and Christine Ann were talking about how so many people have encounters and that they don't know what to do. And a lot of times people turn to drugs, people turn to alcohol, self-harm, harming other family members. Christina and I are going to work on setting up kind of like an outreach program to where people, if they're having a hard time and had an encounter and can't comprehend what the heck happened, that they can reach out to someone that has had an encounter and can help them relate to what happened. You've been trying to do it for a while now, and I think with you and I and our minds combined, I think we can come up with something pretty good and beneficial.
I'd really enjoy that, because I think for some people they left too traumatized, and other people just don't know where to go.
Yeah.
You know, because I know that when I'm looking for stories, people can be pretty guarded. I'm surprised that Tom Lyons has gotten as many stories as he has. I find people guarded, not wanting to talk, even when I know they've had an experience. So,
yeah.
Hopefully these people will reach out to us and not find themselves doing something that will harm themselves or other people.
Right.
Not letting their experiences get the best of them.
Yeah.
You know.
No, I agree. Yeah.
Because a lot of how we deal with them overall depends on perspective too. And how we deal with these experiences definitely deals with perspective. And sometimes it's more of, is this what happened, or is this how you perceived it? I think I told you about a particular person who called me recently. Obviously, that Dogman was a threat to him. Mm. But the one previously, he gave him a warning. He let him know there was something bad there. He never intended to harm him, and I told him that right from the start. If he didn't want him dead, guess what he'd be?
Dead.
Yeah, he'd be dead. I've had plenty of people survive attacks and be traumatized by them. But better you be traumatized than be dead.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And there's no shame in asking for help, people. I waited quite a few years, and it drove me crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, your books, they're not just your encounters, they're other people's encounters. And with my channel, I I have people thanking me for, allowing them to share. And I'm like, I just have, or thanking me for helping them. And I'm like, I did nothing. I'm like, all I have is a platform. And, I think a lot of people get the feedback from the comment section is what I think helps out a lot. But, I think it would be beneficial for those people that don't want to even share their encounter, that just want to keep it to themselves, not have it out in the open air or anything, but really need someone to talk to that has experienced something. And just a couple of words, a 10-minute conversation can really change someone's mood from, wanting to self-harm or harm others. And it's insane that's my biggest issue with the fact that the media and the government covers these things up is...
And they need to be doing it because what they're doing is actually causing more harm than good.
Yeah.
They really are. These are warnings right now, but they're not always going to be. Sooner or later, they're just going to disappear. Yeah. I've seen it happen time and time again. People used to turn up in Oregon, Washington, California. Now they don't. Occasionally, but for the most part, they're just gone, never to be seen again.
Yeah, absolutely. It's sad. So
it is, because most of them are children and people who have problems. And when I say problems, I don't just mean the disabled. I mean they might have other problems, other issues going on.
Yeah. And
they seem to be able to home in on that. So real quick, I will tell you the name of the book, so I'm actually thinking about it.
Yes, please.
Nightmare in the Woods was the first one.
Okay.
The second one, I took a different approach because people started sending me all this paranormal stuff. I had some pretty interesting stuff, and I did some research on different things. Got a couple I wasn't sure what to do with because one had a weird cargo story in it. Let's see, which one was that? Dogman, Multiple Encounters, Sasquatch Multiple Encounters, Cryptid Tales, and Christine Ann Collection, Book 1, Christine Ann Collection, Book 2. Okay. Oh, and Graham's Little Helper. That was just my Christmas. Hi!
Okay. So
that's my...
And they're all found on Amazon.
They're all found on Amazon under my name.
Okay.
CHRISTY. It's a Y, not an I. YNEANNE.
Which I'll put all that information in the description below for all you guys. Or you can
put Facebook and Christine Ann Facebook.
Okay.
Christine Ann book Facebook. There we go. Christine Ann's books on Facebook. I always have such a hard time saying that.
Okay. And then
because it's local.
Christine Ann and I are gonna this coming week we're gonna kind of brainstorm a little bit about this outreach program, and come up with probably a couple of different ideas, and then figure out the best way, because I think this is going to be beneficial for a lot of people. And like I was telling Christine Ann, I've had a subscriber whose wife had killed herself after having an experience, and he was left alone to deal with the anguish of losing his wife and then the trauma of seeing these creatures. So hopefully by starting this outreach program, hopefully if we can only help one person, that would be amazing. I'd like to help more, but even just one would be great. So
it would be. I know that I have a few people I think would enjoy joining us because they occasionally do need help, especially one friend I have that's a trucker, because you never know what he's going to see out there.
Right, yeah.
And his last encounter has left him really shaken. I think it's going to be a while before he goes back in the woods, period. I don't even think he would go in at this point with me.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Well, do me a favor. Don't hang up. I'd like to talk to you for a few minutes after. Is there anything that you'd like to say to the audience before we end the interview?
Just that I appreciate them taking the time to hear what I had to say. I hope they're all being safe out there. When you're out and about, just make sure you're paying attention to everything, looking up in the trees and whatnot. But keep in mind, if you start feeling a little off, then something generally is making you feel off. Just listen to your instincts. They're the best tool that you have.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. Thank you for coming on tonight, and I look forward to working with you in the future.
No problem.
What is it? What'd you
What the
see?
frick is that?
What? It's behind that tree right there.
Nana, what is that?
What is it? What'd you
What the
see?
frick is that?
What? It's behind that tree right there.
Nana, what is that?
What is it? What'd you
What the
see?
frick is that?
What? It's behind that tree right there.
Nana, what is that?
What is it? What'd you
What the
see?
frick is that?
What? It's behind that tree right there.
Nana, what is that?
What is it? What'd you
What the
see?
frick is that?
What? It's behind that tree right there.
Nana, what is that?
What is it? What'd you
What the
see?
frick is that?
What? It's behind that tree right there.
Nana, what is...
And there you have it, folks. I do hope you all enjoyed today's bonus as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. I'd like to thank you all for supporting the channel. It is, after all, your support that helps this channel to continue to grow and go. And honestly, what gives us all a place and a chance to share our experiences and theories judgment-free. Everyone is simply treated with the respect that we deserve. Please stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, and our friends. These creatures are real. They are out there and dangerous. Share this information with those you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for the truth, and God bless you all.